Hi guys and welcome back. Today's video is going to be very special, because I'm going to explore an older version of Love, Death and Robots. The name of this episode in particular is Beyond the Aquila Rift. This particular episode stuck with me, because it was so wonderfully made as it delved deep into the imagination of the unknown. It is a skillful rarity of technical beauty in art that reflects the vastness of space. This episode signifies the young unadulterated possibilities of the unexplored. It seemed to capitalize on the mystery of the unsearchable, as it is masterfully crafted with a visually stunning sci-fi canvas. In today's video I'm going to take a closer, more in-depth view of these creatures, which will hopefully reveal that their behavior is not so strange when compared to the natural animal life we know on Earth. So follow me as we look deep into the strange aspects of these mysterious arachno-like creatures, and break down these unique predators to make sense of them. Before we begin exploring the creatures, let's refamiliarize ourselves with the plot and backstory of this show. Beyond the Aquila Rift is one episode of the first season of Love, Death and Robots. It stars Henry Douthwaite, who voices Tom, Madeline Knight, who voices Greta, and Rebecca Bonatvala, who voices Susie. The plot is about the Blue Goose and its crew. As the ship heads towards an interstellar surge point gate, Tom checks with Ray and Susie if the ship is ready to enter the gate. With everything green to go, they all enter their surge tanks in preparation for the faster-than-light journey. As they entered into the gate, everything seemed to be nothing but routine. But little do they know this was only the beginning of an alluring nightmare. Tom and Susie wake up with alarms ringing in the background, showing that the system had an error and that they were off course. As they try to surmise their situation and their surroundings, they see that the ship is being tugged into a repair dock instead of its destination. In the chaos and confusion of what's happening, the ship's cargo hold door opens up and they are greeted by an old friend of Tom's, Greta. Greta, who explains that they're at the Somlaki station, in Shidar sector, and that there was a routing error in the ship's navigation systems, and that Archangel Dispatch must have had a glitch in their syntax launch patterns. Susie responds with disbelief and attempts to get up, but she was disoriented from her long sleep and stumbles over to Tom and Greta. They put her back into her tank, and Greta then escorts Tom outside the Blue Goose and into Somlaki station. We fast forward and skip to the part where Tom wakes up Susie, but Susie notices Greta in the corner and asks Tom who she is. When Tom responds that it's his old friend Greta, Susie adamantly shouts that it's not Greta. Susie yells at Greta, demanding to know who and what she is, implying that Greta may not be what she appears to be with the naked eye. Susie's tirade suggests that she might be aware of the true nature of Greta, and the truth behind the reality they're facing now. Susie becomes hysterical with fear, anger and confusion as she lunges at Greta. Susie snatches the statue from Greta's hands and attempts to stab her with it, but only manages to scrape Greta's neck as Greta dodges the fatal blow. Greta sees that Susie is out of control and immediately injects a tranquilizer needle into her chest. With Susie knocked out, she is placed back into her tank to help her calm down. Later that night, Tom observes Greta's neck as she sleeps, and notices that the cut had completely disappeared. He then says to Greta that Susie is right about her, and that she isn't actually Greta. Greta, who appeared to be asleep, immediately opened her eyes without hesitation, and reveals to him the truth by telling him that his entire surroundings is just a simulation being fed to his mind, and that he is still asleep in his tank. Armed with the truth, Tom demands the whole story from Greta, who resists by telling him that he is not ready. Tom tells her that he wants to see the station as things really are. After a strange and bizarre tearful reaction, Greta eventually caves in, but not before telling him that she does care for him and that she cares for all the lost souls that end up here. Tom wakes up in his tank and is greeted with the horrifying reality that his body is emaciated, his face is gaunt, his eyes are bloodshot, and his hair is now long and unkempt. All this time, he and his crew lived in an alien hive containing several wrecked ships that had also ended up there via the routing error. In shock, he speechlessly looks around his surroundings, and spots the decomposing bodies of his crew. He then hears the voice of Greta calling out to him from a dark corridor inside his wrecked ship. He looks for the whereabouts of the voice. With sunken eyes he blinks to focus on unimaginable horror emerging from the shadows. It walks towards him speaking in the voice of Greta. This was its true form. A pale-like giant spider creature, with human-like appendages at the top of its torso. The creature's stature almost touched the ceiling in the hallway, which would suggest that it had to be at least 8 feet tall, if not taller. The creature face was swollen and peppered with countless marble-shaped blood-colored eyes. All Tom could do was scream uncontrollably, as the scene fades to black. This particular episode was truly amazing. A power pack episode that contained all the best elements that makes a great show. It was mysterious, it was wondrous, it was frightening, and thrilling. So now the question is, what are the creatures? First things first, we know that they're predatorial, because they feed on humans in some capacity. What they feed on, or how they feed, is secondary. Judging by where the creatures establish their base, they clearly have a routine. This routine doesn't seem to be happenstance, especially if we take into account what Greta says, that this is a routine occurrence. So, that means their way of life is purposely done, and like most predators, they don't wander far from their prey migrating routes. So, they might have set up this base specifically to capture their prey for various reasons, to capitalize off the station's randomized errors and breakdowns, or they have a deal with the Archangel transportation system to let this happen once in a while. Next, we know that they are predatorial, but what makes this particular creature unique is that it's also parasitic in nature. Let me elaborate. These creatures remind me of something on Earth, and I'm going to explain why. First, we have to understand a term, and this term is parasitism. Parasitism is a parasitic relationship in which one organism, the parasite, lives off of another organism, the host, harming it and possibly causing death. The parasite lives on or in the body of the host. A few examples of parasites are tapeworms, fleas, and barnacles. There are 3 main classes of parasite: protozoa, helminths, and ectoparasites. But what we're going to focus on is ectoparasites. Ectoparasites is a parasite, such as a flea, that lives on the outside of its host. This leads us into our next word of the day, and that is parasitoids. Parasitoids are small insects whose immature stages develop either within or attached to the outside of other insects, referred to as hosts. Parasitoids eventually kill the host they feed on, as opposed to parasites like fleas and ticks, which typically feed upon hosts without killing them. And from what we see about these alien creatures and their parasitic nature is that they don't leave their host alive, judging from the corpses of the crew members, and the emaciated body of Tom. These parasitoid spider-like creatures remind me of this particular insect on Earth, and the name of this bug is called the braconid wasp, aka Braconidae. The Braconidae are a family of parasitoid wasps. They have a very unique way of breeding to keep their species alive. The adult wasps lay its eggs on or in the soft bodies of caterpillars. They are attracted by the smell of caterpillars munching on plant leaves. The braconid larvae feed inside their living hosts, weakening or killing them. A female braconid wasp can lay up to 200 eggs a day in warm summer weather. The connection between the wasp and these particular creatures doesn't end there, because it's what the wasp secrete that makes this connection more specific. You see, as the caterpillar is being eaten alive, you may say, why doesn't the caterpillar change its routine? Why doesn't it stop eating? This is because this particular wasp releases a chemical that paralyzes their victim as they are fed upon. Of course, that all changes when the parasites emerge in the death of the caterpillar. You see, this isn't new for parasites to immobilize their victims so that they are incapacitated in a way so that they can't fight back, or the host is unaware that they're being drained of their life essence. Mosquitoes do the same thing. A mosquito injects a chemical that is in its saliva that acts like an anesthetic to numb the pain as it feeds. So in conclusion, I believe these creatures are some sort of parasitic creature that feeds on the victims of those who stray or get lost in transit. So, tell me what you think, guys, about the creatures. Are they parasites? What do you think? This is my theory, and it holds very little water when it comes to anything certain. But your opinion does help out in the long run, so please leave your input below, and thanks for watching.